Hello and welcome to Colred Plays Raid Shadow Legends. I am Colred. Thank you for joining me. In today's video, we're going to talk about the new Halloween fusion, Timit the Fool. But in addition, this is a time right now, before the fusion has even launched, where there's a lot of value in the game. So I want to give you a heads up about some places I think you can get some extra value. And then I also have a thought about what this fusion is going to look like this Halloween and how that's going to affect your decision about whether or not to go for this fusion champion. So whether you're an early game player, mid game player, or late game player, I think you're going to want to hear these things. So wherever you happen to be in the game, I think there's going to be some value in this video today. So stick around. Just a quick reminder, I live stream every Tuesday and Saturday. Tuesday, that's today at 2 p.m. Eastern time. I do my Takeover Tuesdays. So if you're interested in takeover content or you want to try to win yourself a free takeover, come join the stream today at 2 p.m. Eastern. Also on Saturday, my editor Son and I do our live Noob versus Pro series where we take out our Lobby accounts, have a lot of fun, mess around. It's a pretty cool time. So come join us on Saturday again at 11 a.m. Eastern. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and consider joining our Discord community. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about is actually this fusion warm-up event. So these fusion warm-up events are usually fairly friendly. They're one of the friendliest events in the game. And this particular event is extremely friendly this time around. So first of all, in order to get the points, all you have to do is remember to upgrade artifacts every day. You don't have to upgrade a lot of artifacts. You can take like 2 artifacts to 8, I think, level 8, and that should be enough. So yeah, you can even see here, like down at the bottom, if you take 2 6-star artifacts to level 8, that would get you 20 points, and you can only get 15 points a day. So level up a few artifacts, you probably want to do that anyway, and you're going to get all of these points. Now on this reward track, there are 240 Halloween points for the Sun Wukong souls. So if you have done none of the Sun Wukong points events prior to this one, this can get you the 2-star soul. Now, it's going to take you a couple of days to complete this. You want to remember that the timer isn't exactly in sync with the server reset. So even though it says 60 points in, I think it was 4 days, you can actually get 75 points. You have like an extra day, but it's only a few hours on each end. So you want to make sure that you're doing this and collecting as many points as you can get. This really is the friendliest event in the game, so don't forget about it. In addition, you'll notice here there are 10 prism crystals. So I want to talk about that quickly too. Right now in the summoning portal is a prism shard event. It is going on for the next 3.5 days. The requirement for a single pull here is only 20 prism shards, and you are going to be getting 10 from that fusion warm-up event. So if you can find another 10 out there somewhere, you're going to get a free pull here. Now, the chance for an epic is 37%. The chance for a legendary is 3%. So this is actually better than a 2 times event for an ancient shard in terms of your legendary chances and your epic chances. If you are in the early or mid game, this is a really good opportunity to get a free pull, maybe get a free epic or even a free legendary. I've already mentioned in a previous video how good this pool is. It's a very good pool of champions. So consider going after these prism shards. And I want to show you where they are available. So this is the page for the Fire Knight Turn Attack Tournament that just went live. And this is again faction specific, but this time we have access to 4 factions, all of the Halloween factions, the Demon Spawn, Undead Hordes, Dark Elves, and Knights Revenant. And you'll notice that the point totals here for the top prize is 2,700. In fact, this column is about as good a reward track as we ever see. So if you take the 10 prism quartz or prism shards or whatever it is you get from the fusion warm-up event, and you add it to the 50 here, that's going to be 60. That's 3 pulls of the prism shards. In addition, you have a primal shard here, and you have another 50 points for the Sun Wukong souls. So between the fusion warm-up event and this one tournament, you can pick up 290 Halloween points, and you can pick up 3 pulls of the prism shards. Now, in terms of the value for this particular event, if you look at the info tab, this will tell you how many points you can get for the tournament. Remember, this is a turn attack tournament, so the fewer turns, the better. But if you can pick up even 15 points per run, this is only going to take you 180 runs. If you can get 25 points per run, this is going to take you, 108 runs, something like that. So This potentially can be very easily completed by everybody everywhere in the game. And that means with that Fusion warm-up event, everybody, every single player, even if you're a really new player, can get 3 of those pulls, can get a Primal Shard. So I think that this Fire Knight turn attack is something that nobody should skip. Now, in thinking about the actual Halloween Fusion itself, we have the champion. We'll go over him in just a minute. But one of the things that I realized about this Fusion, and I want to share with you, is that this Fusion is going to be going on at the same time as the Halloween Titan event. So in 2.5 days, the Fusion should launch, or in 3 days, the Fusion should launch. And we're going to have at least 7 to 10 days of this Titan event going on during that Fusion. Now, I think this is going to impact our decision-making process for whether or not we want to go after the Fusion, regardless of how good the champion happens to be. We are already currently playing at a very high activity level, and the Fusion events are typically the highest activity levels in the game, meaning you have to put the most hours into raid that you ever have to do in order to get the Fusion. But potentially for at least half, if not 3/4 of this Fusion event, we're still going to be working at a very high activity level because of this Halloween Titan event. So if you are actively engaged in the Halloween Titan event, if you want to go for that 4-star Wukong Soul, if you're trying to pick up as many of the extra resources from all of these tournaments, or if you're just enjoying the overall Halloween festivities, you may find it really easy to ramp it up just a notch to get your Fusion champion. Or maybe you don't even have to ramp it up that much. Maybe you're already doing all of the things that you need to do to go after that Halloween Fusion. Now, there is a flip side to this all. If you are already burned out with the Halloween event, you may not have the emotional, physical, intellectual energy, the mental energy to sustain this level of activity for another 2 weeks, because it's going to be, at least a few days before this drops, and then it's going to be a 2-week Fusion. So if you don't have the mental endurance right now, if you just don't have the energy, if you don't have the interest, because you've been playing so much raid and you want to step away from it for a second, that may also affect your judgment of this champion. And I wanted to get this out there before we actually look at the champion, because your state of mind about the game right now is going to affect how you view this champion. So I'm going to try to give you a review of this champion that kind of disregards that aspect of Fusion success, which is our commitment to the game or the fun that we're having at any given moment. But I do want you to consider it. If you need to step away from the game, great. If you're already really into the game and you think it's going to be easier to go after this Fusion than any other Fusions, typically because you don't have to elevate your play activity, then great, you could go for him just for that purpose, just to get another great legendary, have him in your roster. Or maybe you like his aesthetic. It's kind of this cool, creepy carnival, festival of frights look here that both of these champions have. And remember, he is going to be a duo as well. You can see the 2 champions up above. Those are the 2 champions. The one over there on that side, on the far side, that is the Fusion champion, and the one above my head is going to be his duo. We don't know about her kit yet. We should be getting that information soon. All right, so now let's go take a look at Timit. Okay, so here he is, Timit the Fool. He's got, a creepy clown vibe. I don't know how I feel about that. The head of his hammer, I guess the head of his mallet here, is actually a clown face. So when he pounds on an enemy, he imprints them with a grinning clown face. It's pretty horrifying, right? It's a pretty awful idea. I don't know how I like this aesthetic. It's cool, don't get me wrong. Obviously, they put some thought into it. But yeah, that alone, some people don't like clowns. I'm not a huge fan. So this is something that maybe I just won't look at them too much. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the kit now. So the A1 attacks 2 times. Each hit heals this champion by 10% of their max HP. If the target has no active buffs, each hit also fills the champion's turn meter by 10%. Okay, so getting sustain onto an HP-based champion seems like a pretty good benefit, right? So he is HP-based. I'm going to assume his HP pool is somewhere in the vicinity of maybe 21 to 23,000 HP, something like that. He's definitely going to be over 20,000 HP. So if he heals himself twice at 20% of his max HP, you're talking about a minimum of 4,000 HP as a heal. Plus, you can increase that with masteries and all sorts of other, passives and artifact sets. Plus, this even books higher, so it's going to be up to a 12% heal per hit. So this feels like a lot of sustain. I don't know that it's a legendary amount of sustain, but it's not bad. In addition, if the target has no buffs, each hit fills the champion's turn meter by 10%. So if he's going fast and he's going first, or he's going against a boss that doesn't have buffs, and we're going to talk about like what he can do with the buffs, then he's going to get additional turn meter, which means he's going to go even faster. And again, it's each hit, so up to 20% turn meter. All right, the A2 Test Your Strength is an AoE that decreases the duration of all enemy buffs by 3 turns. Now, this is basically a buff removal skill. I think there is a difference between this and a straight up buff removal. I'm not sure exactly how the mechanics work, but they're wording this differently, and so I think it's coded differently. And one thing that I've heard in the past, and maybe we can confirm, is that this won't trigger polymorph debuffs. The buff removal triggers polymorph, but the decreased duration does not trigger polymorph because it's not technically hitting the champion, it's affecting the buffs directly. Now, I think that's true, but that's something that we're going to need to confirm. And then if there are no enemies with active buffs, this grants an extra turn. I feel like this passive part of the skill is after the attack. So that means if you actually remove the buffs from the enemy, you're going to get an extra turn. You're always going to get an extra turn if Kaya the Rai, who is the duo, is on the team. But let's assume we're not going to have Kaya. So this is pretty good. This is going to reduce this cooldown from a 4-turn cooldown basically to a 3-turn cooldown. And likewise with the next skill, which is Kegs of Dread, we're also going to get a chance to reduce that from a 4-turn cooldown to a 3-turn cooldown. Now, Kegs of Dread attacks all enemies. Before attacking, places an increased accuracy buff on all allies for 2 turns. And then places a True Fear debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. The True Fear will take accuracy, so that accuracy buff will help to place the True Fear. And in addition, if you got the extra turn, you might be able to do the AoE Test Your Strength, followed by the AoE Kegs of Dread. So even if they don't hit super hard individually, the fact that you can do back-to-back AoEs is pretty cool. All right, so now we get to the passive Hideous Assistant. Whenever an enemy's skill successfully activates while they are under a Fear or True Fear debuff, fills Timit's turn meter by 10%. So a Fear or True Fear should give a 50% chance to negate the enemy's turn. Basically, they just burn their turn, they stand there afraid, and they don't go. That's 50% of the time. So the 50% of the time that they do go, Timit's going to get his turn meter to come back faster. Now, the second part of the passive is incredibly powerful, but it requires the duo. And so this is tricky. If you have the duo, if you get Kaya the Rai, this can be a very powerful passive here. Whenever an enemy skill does not activate because they are under a Fear or True Fear debuff, places a Provoke debuff on that enemy for 1 turn. So they're going to potentially, the enemy's going to potentially lose 1 turn from the True Fear. And then if it does, it's going to get a Provoke on it. So then it's CC'd again for a 2nd turn. 2-turn duration CCs are highly uncommon in the game. And so this could be incredibly powerful. Remember, it's an AoE, so it's potentially an AoE 2-turn CC. Now, the first turn will just be lost to the True Fear, and the second turn will allow for an A1, but a Provoke is still a great way to control waves. This actually seems like one of his most powerful abilities, so if you happen to pull Kaya the Rai, you're going to want Timit the Fool for this potential 2-turn CC. Finally, he has an aura that increases ally accuracy by 50 in all battles. That's going to help him land his True Fears. It's also going to help him, I believe, land the decrease duration of all enemy buffs by 3 turns. So he's going to need some accuracy in his kit. Now, we don't know how hard he's going to hit. HP-based champions typically don't hit that hard. They're more of support champions, and he's got a lot of support mechanics in his kit. But he does have 2 AoEs. So if his multipliers are decent at all, potentially he might be worth building for some damage here. You're still going to want some accuracy on him. You're obviously going to want some speed on him. But he's got a chance to go fast, to sustain himself, to get extra turn meter, to debuff waves, to hit them pretty hard. So this seems like a solid champion. Again, we don't know the stats, so we don't know exactly how hard he's going to hit. But he has a potential to be a solo champion. He has a potential to be a great AoE champion. He could be used in Hydra with that decreased duration of all enemy buffs by 3 turns. And he could also be used in Doom Tower and Hydra because of the increased accuracy. Now, the True Fears won't play against bosses, but you almost don't care about the True Fear when you're talking about Hydra or Doom Tower. That increased accuracy buff will just alleviate the accuracy requirements for the very highest floors of Doom Tower, when the resistance of those waves and those those bosses get so high that it's really tough to meet that threshold. So the more I look at this kit, the more I think it's a pretty valuable kit. I don't think it's overwhelming. It's definitely a solid champion who I probably wouldn't pass on if I had the interest and the resources and the time to play the game. It feels like I may go for this champion on my main account, but I'm probably not going to stretch on my new account to try to make this my first fusion. I do think for a new account, he could be a good progression champion, but personally going after the champion on 2 different accounts is probably too much for me just to handle in terms of my playtime in the game. So again, consider how active you're already being with the Halloween Titan event, and that may influence your decision about whether or not you think this guy is worth going for. I don't want to undersell him because I do think he's actually going to be very good, and I think there are going to be some interesting builds with this champion, but we still need a little bit more information to know exactly how valuable he's going to be. And he doesn't seem so overwhelmingly powerful that he's a must fuse. Okay, so I hope that information helps you out, gets you started on your path to making a decision about whether you're going to fuse Timit the Fool or not. But don't forget to get the value that's currently going on in the game with the Fusion warm-up event, with the Fire Knight Turn Attack Tournament, and the Prism Shard event that's going on right now. If you happen to pull any Prism Shards and you hit on a champion, let me know about those in the comments below. Also, if you have any questions about the Fusion event, put those in the comments below. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and consider joining our Discord community. I've been Colred. Thanks for hanging out. I will see you in another video soon.